Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere cold gray and deeply communal, where the walls are thin, the elevators never quite work, and your most prized possession is half a loaf of dark bread wrapped in yesterday's newspaper. That's right, you've just moved into a Soviet apartment block, specifically a Khrushchevka, a concrete marvel of efficiency, discomfort, and state-approved architecture. You're not here to escape or rebel. You're just here to live. Quietly. Predictably. Maybe get a promotion if your floor manager retires. But mostly just survive the week without stepping in a mysterious hallway puddle. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to post where you're listening from and what time it is in your sleepy corner of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive on a Thursday, because all strange life-defining moments in Soviet housing tend to happen on Thursdays. You're carrying two battered suitcases, one filled with sensible underwear and the other with a samovar you inherited from your aunt. The building looms in front of you like a half-finished idea, 5 stories of beige, boxy uniformity. Its flat roof stares at you blankly, like it's seen 1,000 arrivals, just like yours, and is not impressed. A Khrushchevka, built in a rush, meant to last 20 years, now pushing 40 with the structural integrity of wet cardboard and the charm of a soggy encyclopedia. You push open the front door. It sticks. You pull. It groans. Inside a stairwell, bathed in the pale green paint of collective indifference. The smell hits you immediately. Boiled cabbage floor polish and a suspicious metallic tang that could either be radiator water or regret. You climb the stairs because the elevator's broken, naturally. 5th floor, your new home. A metal door with 3 separate locks and a doormat that says Dobro Pожаловать, but clearly doesn't mean it. You fumble with the keys. They stick. The top lock jiggles. The middle one clicks. The bottom one protests. Finally, the door swings open with a reluctant sigh. And there it is, your box in the sky. 27 square meters of concrete luxury. The wallpaper is floral, but not cheerfully so. More like flowers painted by someone who's never seen joy. A worn carpet clings to the floor. The window overlooks more Khrushchevkas, a sea of sameness. There's a bed in the corner, lumpy, probably filled with horsehair and crushed dreams. A small wooden table, a stove that hisses ominously when touched, and a radio mounted into the wall, which will never turn off, and only ever plays one station, the government's soothing voice, whispering about tractor production quotas and the weather forecast for Murmansk. Your neighbor's TV blares through the paper-thin wall. Someone's watching a patriotic drama where everyone is angry, stoic, and slightly damp. You set your bags down. The floor creaks. The radiator hisses. A pipe gurgles in the wall like it's clearing its throat before delivering bad news. Welcome home. You start to unpack. First the samovar. It gets a place of honor on the table beside a tiny plastic vase filled with even tinier plastic flowers. You plug it in. Nothing happens. Of course, you make a mental note to boil water the old-fashioned way through sheer willpower and a suspicious stovetop kettle. Then clothes, folded with precision, socks rolled like soldiers, your best shirt button, missing, hung gently in the closet, which smells like mothballs and someone else's memories. Outside, someone knocks. Not your door. Next door. You peek through the peephole. A babushka in a woolen headscarf is scolding a boy, holding a stick and a half-eaten apple. She's pointing at a scratch on the hallway wall like it's a crime scene. The boy looks unbothered. The apple looks innocent. The boy shrugs. The babushka mutters something about young people these days. The boy runs. She makes the sign of the cross and waddles off in the opposite direction. This is normal. You learn very quickly that nothing is private. Every movement, every sound, every whispered conversation seeps through walls and doors and into ears eager to interpret and judge. You make tea, sort of. The water takes 9 minutes to boil. The tea bag, one of your last from the black market, is weak but determined. You sit at the table and sip, listening to your radio whisper about potato harvests and collective unity. Outside, the sky darkens. Inside, your walls make new noises. Pops, groans, the occasional drip, drip, drip of something that might be from the ceiling or maybe the floor above. You make another mental note. Buy a bucket. You pull a blanket over your lap. It smells like a stranger's attic and faint optimism. You stare out the window at the other buildings, square windows, yellow lights, ghosts of lives flickering behind curtains. A man waters his plant on the balcony in a bathrobe. A child waves at no one. A woman smokes her cigarette, glowing like a firefly in the dark. You are now one of them, stacked, sorted, slightly steamed. You crawl into bed. It groans. You groan back. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling your single-pane window with all the enthusiasm of a bored ghost. The radiator finally starts working, barely. Your breath fogs the air as you pull the blanket higher. Somewhere down the hall, someone sneezes, twice. You wonder if you should introduce yourself tomorrow. You wonder if there will be hot water. You wonder if your ceiling will survive the winter, but mostly you just breathe. In, out. You are in your new home. It smells of cabbage. It sounds like echoes. It feels oddly permanent, and that's how it begins. You wake to muffled voices. Not in your room, though, given the paper-thin walls, it may as well be. Somewhere behind your headboard, two people are arguing about beet storage. Loudly, passionately, in a tone typically reserved for war tribunals or very competitive chess matches. Welcome to your first full day in a Soviet apartment block. And more specifically, welcome to your neighbors. They are not just other tenants. They are part of your life now, permanently, like the radiator that hisses or the smell of dill that never truly goes away. You do not choose your neighbors. The state does. And the state believes in variety. Let's begin with the couple upstairs. You don't know their names. You only know their routine. He is a saxophone student, possibly self-taught. His favorite time to practice is between 11 p.m. and whatever time you start hallucinating saxophones in your dreams. She is either his mother, sister, wife, or roommate. It's not clear, but she yells his name often enough that you're starting to consider adding it to your morning prayers. Kolya, the soup is boiling. Kolya, turn off the radio before it explodes again. Kolya, that's not a rehearsal. That's a cry for help. The walls shake. You live beneath a jazz experiment no one asked for. Then there's the babushka across the hall. You haven't spoken to her yet, but she's seen you. She always sees you. She peers through the cracked door of her flat, her eyes like two black buttons sewn too tight. She never leaves, but somehow she knows everything. When the plumber arrives, she knows. When someone drops a glass in the hallway, she's the first to tut. When a child writes peace in chalk on the stairwell, she reports it for political ambiguity. You're pretty sure she has a radio in every room and one inside her teapot. You call her the Sentinel. Just in your head, of course. The apartment to your left contains at least 7 people, possibly 12. You've counted different voices, arguing at different volumes, all within seconds of each other. There's always something cooking or burning. The hallway outside their door smells like fish one day, varnish the next, and occasionally, unmistakably, birthday cake. Every time you pass, someone is either laughing or crying, sometimes both. You once made eye contact with a teenage girl at their doorway. She was holding a chicken. No explanation followed. Your building is not just inhabited, it's alive. It coughs, sighs, groans. At exactly 6:45, each morning the pipes moan, with enough tragic resonance to qualify as a state-approved symphony. The ceiling creaks. The radiators knock like someone trying to be let out. Your walls are not walls. They're wet paper stretched across a breathing, gossiping, endlessly judging creature made of concrete and boiled onions. By midday, you try to introduce yourself to someone. You choose a safe target, a woman in her 40s with a shopping bag full of potatoes and a sensible coat. Hello, you say. She stares. You smile. She stares harder. Then she nods. Barely. You realize you've passed the test. You are now the quiet one in 5B. It could be worse. Later, you are visited by the gossip trio. They appear in your doorway like a faded painting, 3 babushkas in slippers and headscarves, armed with thermoses, a plate of hard candy, and questions. Where are you from? Do you work for the party? Do you have a television? They don't wait for answers. They just absorb your soul and carry it away for sorting. They inform you of the building's politics, that the man on the third floor is not to be trusted, that the woman with the red coat has ideas, that the boy who delivers milk forgets things. They also give you a jar of pickles. You accept. They leave satisfied. You stare at the pickles. They smell intense. You label the jar weaponized hospitality. That evening, you hear something new through the walls. Laughter. It's not sarcastic, not forced. It's soft, real. The sound of someone listening to a joke and letting go of the day. It surprises you. It reminds you that behind each of these doors, flimsy though they are, there are people, not just characters in a tragicomedy of cement and cues. People. Tired, hopeful, suspicious, kind. Sometimes all at once. You sit by your window. Across the courtyard, lights flicker on. Someone plays a violin badly. Someone sings. Someone argues about the price of pickled cabbage. Fred climbs onto the windowsill. Winifred is asleep in your sock drawer, which she now considers rent-free property. You sip tea. You are no longer alone here. You live in a building where no one is ever alone, not even when they want to be, especially not then. You lie back on your thin mattress, listening to Kolya's saxophone squeal like it's being exorcised. Somewhere a toilet flushes with majestic fury. Somewhere someone knocks on a radiator in Morse code that no one understands. You smile. This is your building. This is your new life. And you will never not know what your neighbors had for dinner again. You wake early again. This time not because of Kolya's midnight saxophone solo or the radiator clanking like a cursed metronome. No, today's mission is more urgent, more perilous, more intimate. You have to beat the bathroom queue. It is 5:27 a.m. You slip out of bed quietly, shuffle into your slippers, and grab your towel like a soldier. Going to war. Fred stretches. Winifred yawns and curls deeper into your blanket, blissfully unaware of what you're about to endure. The hallway is dark. The only light comes from a flickering bulb near the stairwell that blinks in Morse code. You suspect it's saying, "Don't do this," but you're already committed. The bathroom is down the hall, not a personal bathroom, a shared one, a single toilet, one sink, a bathtub the color of old pennies, 6 families. The math is grim. You approach. Someone's already there. You see the dim shape of a man standing with a toothbrush in his mouth, staring into the cracked mirror like he's trying to remember his place in the universe. You wait behind him, silently adjusting your towel. Time passes. He brushes and brushes, then spits with theatrical despair. You nod politely. He grunts in return and exits. leaving behind a faint scent of garlic and despair. Your turn. You enter the bathroom like it's a sacred temple, a very wet temple. The sink is dripping. The bathtub contains three things: a crusty soap dish, a hairbrush of unknown ownership, and a single damp sock, clinging to the edge like it survived a shipwreck. The toilet gurgles in greeting. You lock the door. Not that it matters. The lock is mostly symbolic. Still, this is your moment. Your chance to wash your face, brush your teeth, and maybe, if the fates allow, even use the toilet without someone knocking every 30 seconds. You run the water. It comes out brown, then clears. You scrub quickly. Halfway through brushing your teeth, someone bangs on the door. A woman's voice. I have to go. You spit into the sink, the foam swirling like a tragic ballet. Another knock. Louder. I know you're in there. You rinse your mouth. Open the door. The woman storms in muttering curses in 3 different dialects. You step aside. She closes the door behind her, and you hear the lock click with a vengeance. Back in your flat, you reflect on what just happened. You survived the morning bathroom gauntlet, barely. And you now understand why so many Soviet citizens preferred sponge baths and emotional repression. You sit on your bed and towel off your face with a rag that may once have been a curtain. Fred purrs. Winifred bites your foot gently, either affectionately or with disdain. You consider your options. A. Skip the bathroom entirely tomorrow and go full dry shampoo monk. B. Wake up at 4:45 a.m. and face the hallway ghosts. C. Start bribing neighbors for time slots using your dwindling stash of sugar cubes. None of them are good. You opt for option B. You are, after all, adaptable. Later that week, something strange happens. You're brushing your hair in the hallway mirror, a scratched square of glass nailed near the stairwell, when the teenager from apartment 5C approaches. She says nothing, just hands you a piece of chalk. You look at her, then at the wall beside the bathroom. You understand immediately. It's the unofficial bathroom booking system. Each family has a symbol, a triangle, a square, a fish. You get to pick yours. You draw a teacup. She nods approvingly and draws a star beneath hers. You are now in the system. Congratulations. The next morning you find the chalkboard wall wiped clean. An old man is standing beside it, arms folded. You can't reserve water, he grumbles. It comes when it wants. You nod solemnly. He doesn't move. You nod again. Still doesn't move. Eventually, you leave. That day you boil water in your room and wipe yourself down with a damp cloth. You start to understand why ancient Romans invented bathhouses, why medieval peasants didn't bother, why everyone in this building smells faintly like vinegar and resignation. And yet, no one complains. Not really. The shared bathroom is not a place of comfort. It is a place of compromise, a place where dignity and mildew coexist. That evening you overhear a minor miracle. Through the vent, a neighbor whispers, Hot water's back. You don't believe it. You sneak to the bathroom, turn the tap. It coughs, gurgles, then steams. Actual hot water. You almost cry. You strip faster than you have in your entire life and climb into the bathtub, ignoring the damp sock still clinging to the edge like a veteran. You soap, you rinse, you breathe. You feel reborn until the water turns cold. Exactly 97 seconds later. Still, it's a triumph. You return to your room, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping skin pink from heat. Fred sniffs you suspiciously. Winifred licks your elbow. You sit on the bed, stare out the window. Outside, the babushkas are hanging laundry. A man on the third floor is shaving with his balcony window open. The whole building hums with quiet routine. The hallway bathroom is empty now. Its mystery and misery tucked away until tomorrow. You survived another day, and tomorrow you'll do it all again. One damp sock at a time. It's laundry day. Not that you chose today, more like today chose you. A sharp whiff of your only towel. Finally rebelled, Winifred. Knocked over the rice bag again, and your lone pair of acceptable socks have stiffened into the shape of your foot. So, you gather your courage, your linen, and your patience, and head to the basement. Or, as it's affectionately known around here, the pit. The stairwell to the basement feels like a descent into Cold War purgatory. Flickering lights, cobwebs that may have voting rights, and steps slick with a mysterious dampness you no longer question. You pass a faded sign that reads Pravila polzovania stiralnoj mashinoj. Rules for washing machine use, but the paper is so yellowed and brittle it may predate Sputnik. At the bottom, you find the laundry room, a cement chamber with peeling turquoise paint and the gentle hum of despair. In the center, one washing machine, metal, Soviet, a model older than some countries. Her name, according to the plaque, is Belka 4. You approach her like an altar. You are fourth in line. The man ahead of you is washing precisely 3 shirts. You wonder why. Maybe it's all he owns. Maybe it's all he trusts Belka 4 with. Maybe he just needed an excuse to escape his apartment. The woman after him holds a laundry basket filled with baby clothes, dish towels, and what appears to be a single sequined dress. Then there's the older woman, ahead of you in line, knitting, of course, because no one goes to the laundry room without a project. You set down your bundle and sit on a rusted folding chair, listening to the machine thump like it's swallowing rocks. Belka 4 doesn't wash clothes. She confronts them. Time crawls. The woman with the sequined dress tries to plug in a portable radio. It makes a sound like a dying walrus and promptly shorts out the single bulb overhead. The room goes dark for 3 long seconds. You hear someone whisper, "Again." The bulb flickers back to life, but the mood is different now. Everyone's a little quieter, a little more reverent. No one speaks Belka 4's name aloud again. Finally, it's your turn. You lift the metal lid. Inside is the smell of rust, old detergent, and faint panic. You place your modest offering inside towel, 2 shirts, socks, the kitchen cloth you've been using as a napkin, and 1 mystery item that Fred definitely dragged in. You add the powder rationed and pull the dial. It sticks. You pull harder. With a screech and a groan, the cycle begins. The whole machine shudders. Somewhere upstairs, you swear you hear a light fixture rattle. Laundry has begun. You have 17 minutes of enforced stillness. You can't leave. It's not that you don't trust your neighbors. No, actually, it's exactly that. You've heard stories. Someone leaves, comes back, and their socks have been replaced with 2 unmatched mittens and a button collection. So you sit. You observe. There are signs of previous tenants. A pair of slippers placed neatly under the sink, like someone walked out barefoot and never returned. A teacup cracked and discolored, resting on a windowsill that's never been opened. A calendar from 1982 with all the Saturdays circled in pencil. It's like being in a communal time capsule or a ghost's garage. Your cycle finishes with a sound you interpret as reluctant acceptance. You open the lid. Steam wafts upward. Your socks are clean, sort of. You wring out the shirt, more water than you expected. The towel now weighs as much as a small dog. You suspect Belka 4 doesn't really spin so much as swirl gently and judge you. There is no dryer. Dryers are a decadent Western fantasy. You carry your sodden laundry up 5 flights of stairs, trailed by the scent of lavender and fatigue. Your neighbor in 5C eyes your towel. New, she asks. No, you reply. Just less dead. She nods approvingly. Your flat has 1 clothesline strung above the radiator. You hang the towel, the shirt, the socks. 1 sock falls. Fred immediately claims it as a bed. You sigh. Outside the window, clotheslines zigzag between balconies like lazy spider webs. Shirts flap, underwear dances. A lone bedsheet billows like a white flag of surrender. There's a rhythm to it, a grace, a choreography of shared inconvenience. You smile. That night your shirt is still damp. You wear it anyway. It smells like clean metal and mild soap. Fred is curled in your still wet towel. Winifred has discovered the joys of chewing wet socks. You lie back. The radiator clinks. Belka 4's hum still echoes in your ears. You close your eyes. Somewhere downstairs, someone's cycle is starting. The machine groans. The pipes creak. The night carries on. Today the elevator breaks. Again. This is not news. This is tradition. It happens every other Tuesday. Or when someone tries to carry a rug longer than the elevator itself. Or when the State Inspection Bureau sends a representative to check whether the elevator complies with national safety standards. Spoiler, it doesn't. You live on the 5th floor. And so, today you climb. The stairwell of your building is painted a pale institutional green on the lower half and a sort of defeated beige above. It's the exact color palette of dental waiting rooms and national resignation. The stairs are concrete steep and built to exact Soviet specifications. Each step must squeak, and every fourth must be mysteriously shorter. You begin the ascent, one hand on the railing, one on your grocery bag containing cabbage, more cabbage, and a small jar of pickled, something you're not ready to identify. Second floor. You pause. Someone has taped a cartoon of a chicken to the wall. Its caption reads, "Even chickens know the elevator is useless." You nod in solidarity with the chicken. There is an ashtray balanced on the windowsill containing a half-burnt note. The handwriting reads, "Fix it, Yuri." You suspect Yuri has long since given up. Third floor. You are now sweating. You pass a door with loud music playing accordion and something that might be either polka or panic. No one answers when you knock. Next to the door, a child has drawn a sun with a smiley face in chalk. Beside it, another child has scribbled a tank. You assume this is meant to represent balance. Fourth floor. You're breathing heavily now. A babushka overtakes you. Yes, overtakes. She wears orthopedic sandals, a flowered dress, and a look of total indifference. Her bag contains potatoes, possibly several dozen. She nods at you without stopping. You question your life choices. Fifth floor. Home. Victory. You stagger to your door and unlock it. Inside the flat is stuffy. The radiator is on again, though you're unsure how or why, since it was off this morning and no one has touched it. Fred greets you with a yawn. Winifred is attempting to push a spoon under the sofa. You set the groceries down and collapse onto your creaky chair. The climb is over. Until tomorrow. You might be wondering, why not live on a lower floor? That's adorable. In Soviet apartment allocation, choice is a theoretical construct. Apartments are distributed according to need connections, and sometimes how convincingly your cousin can fake a limp during inspections. You're lucky to have plumbing. You're lucky to have windows. You're lucky to live above the floor where pigeons have taken up formal residence. They have names. Someone feeds them pickles. Later that day, a sign appears in the stairwell. A faded sheet of paper typed on a machine that hates the letter E. It reads, "Notice. Elevator will be repaired this week. Maybe. Do not ask." Management. You smile. This is a promise, not a guarantee. That night you dream of escalators, smooth, gliding, clean. You dream of not arriving at your front door out of breath and angry at gravity. In your dream, you ride a magic elevator that plays classical music and smells like clean linen. Then the dream elevator makes a noise like Belka 4 and drops suddenly. You wake up clutching your blanket. Winifred is on your chest. Fred is snoring inside your slipper. You sigh and roll over. The next day, someone tries to carry a refrigerator up the stairs. Yes, a refrigerator. 4 men, 2 ropes, 1 bottle of vodka. They make it to the 3rd floor before someone yells, "We should have emptied it first." This leads to a pause, then a clattering noise, then a very loud crash. You peek from your peephole. A shattered cabbage rolls slowly past your door. The elevator remains broken. By the end of the week, you no longer flinch at the climb. You develop a rhythm. Step, step, breathe. Step, step, curse. Step, step, survive. You learn to carry smaller loads, to pause only on odd-numbered landings, to hold your bag like a shield in case of falling fruit. You find humor in the absurdity. A neighbor pins a paper medal to the fourth-floor banister. It reads, "Congratulations, survivor of the climb." You pin your name under it. So do 5 others. It's the most social interaction you've had all month. And just like that, the stairs stop being your enemy. They become part of your day, your ritual, your cardio, your punishment, and your pride. You climb them with the stubborn dignity of someone who refuses to be defeated by infrastructure, even if the babushka still beats you to the top. Every single time. You wake up dreaming of pickles, not the nice kind in glass jars, the hallway kind fermenting in mysterious buckets, releasing the sort of vinegary aroma that burns through your nose and into your very soul. But that comes later. First, you must get to work. Getting to work is an event, a daily performance, a highly choreographed, sweat-slicked, breath-holding, crowd-dodging miracle. You leave the building at 7:10 a.m., sharp briefcase under one arm, a modest slice of black bread in the other. Fred gives you a look that says, "Coward," and curls back into your still warm pillow. Winifred meows softly, either goodbye or judgment. You begin your commute. First, the courtyard. It's already alive. The babushkas are sweeping imaginary dust. The janitor is banging something metallic with theatrical volume. And someone has taped a note on the building's main door, reading, "Don't forget your ration card." Again. You forgot it yesterday. You approach the trolley bus stop, a place of deep existential reflection. 7 people stand in a loose, resigned clump. No one speaks. No one smiles. Everyone's eyes stare vaguely into the middle distance, as if trying to astral project somewhere warmer. The trolley arrives. You brace yourself. There's no cue. There's just momentum. You move forward as one like particles in a dying star, jostling into a metal box with barely contained violence. Inside it is hot, even in winter. The windows are fogged with other people's breath. Your briefcase is immediately wedged between someone's knee and a wall. Your face ends up 2 centimeters from a stranger's fur hat. You say nothing, because everyone else is already pretending this isn't happening. You grab a pole. It's sticky. You regret everything. At the next stop, 6 more people enter. No one exits. The driver yells something through the intercom, but it's lost in the noise of squeaky brakes and someone's bagpipe ringtone. Yes, a ringtone. Don't ask. Your shoulder is pinned against a wall. A man beside you unfolds Pravda, the national newspaper, with such dexterity he doesn't even need elbow room. You try to read over his shoulder. The headline says, "Productivity, up spirits, high." You both snort quietly. The trolley jerks forward. Everyone leans together. The trolley stops. Everyone lurches backward. It's like group yoga with a concussion. Finally, your stop arrives. You squeeze your way out like toothpaste from a stubborn tube, muttering sorry and excuse me. And I think that was my foot, actually, to no one in particular. You step onto the icy pavement, adjust your coat, and inhale air that smells like coal car exhaust and the vague promise of boiled potatoes. You are almost at work. The building looms ahead, a 5-story cube of reinforced boredom lined with small windows and large dreams that have long since clocked out. You push open the heavy door, past the security desk. The guard is asleep naturally, and climb the stairs. Your office is on the 2nd floor, right above the pipe that hisses like a snake with indigestion. You enter your office. 3 desks, 4 chairs, 5 telephones. None of them work. You sit down. Your chair wobbles slightly, but you've come to like it. It wobbles in time with your size. Your desk contains a stack of blank forms, a rubber stamp, important but mysterious, a framed photo of Lenin's Standard issue, 1 dried pen and a pencil that has been chewed by an optimist. You begin the day's tasks. Mostly they involve pretending to be busy until someone official walks past. At 9:17 a.m., your supervisor peeks in. "Morning," she says, with the kind of tone one uses at a funeral or meat shortage. You respond in kind. She disappears. Someone in the next room sneezes violently. Someone else laughs. A third person turns on the radio. It plays a patriotic march at full volume for 7 seconds before dying with a sad crackle. The office sighs collectively. At 10:00 a.m., a man in a large gray coat comes in to borrow your stapler. He never returns it. You write "stapler stolen" in your daily logbook because you now keep one. It's mostly drawings of spirals and passive-aggressive notes to yourself. At 11:45 a.m., you start dreaming about lunch. You hope the Stolovaya canteen has something edible today. Maybe beetroot salad that doesn't fight back. Maybe soup without bones. Maybe... Well, you'll find out soon enough. But before lunch, someone knocks. It's a woman from archives. She wants your signature for something. You nod. Signed smile. She leaves. You have no idea what you just authorized. Hopefully not war. The clock ticks. The radiator gurgles. You press the rubber stamp onto a blank piece of paper and feel momentarily like a demigod. You stamp it again. Why? Because it's your job, and because the sound is strangely satisfying. You lean back. Your desk phone remains silent. As always, you look out the window. The trolley bus crawls past, stuffed with more faces like yours. The snow falls in lazy spirals. The office smells like old paper and lukewarm ambition. And yet, you are content, because somehow here in this dusty box with your wobbly chair and your stolen stapler and your dreams of beets, you belong. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again, because that's what you do, and you do it well. The lunch bell doesn't actually ring. It's more of a collective feeling, a synchronized hunger that spreads across the office floor like a quiet mutiny. One by one, chairs creak, coats rustle, and employees shuffle toward the stairwell with the sluggish grace of underfed wildebeests. You join them, because today is Meatball Day, allegedly. The canteen sits on the ground floor of the next building over, a low beige rectangle that smells like cabbage optimism and industrial-grade dish soap. You push through the double doors, which always stick halfway, and step into what can only be described as the aesthetic of survival. Everything is linoleum. The tables wobble. The chairs are always warm and never from sunlight. The lighting flickers with state-issued anxiety. You grab a metal tray from the stack and join the line where conversations are whispers and eye contact is kept to a minimum. A man ahead of you points at the menu chalk on a board, so smudged it reads like abstract poetry. Today's offering: soup of the day, potato-based meatballs or orbs of unidentified protein, compote fruit water in name only, bread, yes, again. You reach the counter. The lunch lady does not smile. She ladles something into your bowl. It slaps. You nod. She drops 2 brown spheres onto your plate. They bounce. You say thank you because you're polite even in crisis. She adds a spoonful of pale noodles. You try not to ask if they're supposed to be that color. You take a seat by the window, one of the few with actual daylight. A breeze slips in through a crack in the pane. Outside, pigeons wrestle over a cigarette butt. Inside, you begin to eat. The soup is thick, not with ingredients, but with history. Each spoonful tastes like memory bureaucracy and a vague suggestion of dill. The meatballs are warm. That's the kindest thing you can say. They resist your fork slightly, like they have opinions. The noodles are cold, but they exist. The bread is miraculously good, a little chewy. You suspect it's from the special batch reserved for the head accountant and whichever lucky souls arrive before 12:10. You arrived at 12:09. You're not sure if that's fate or strategy. Either way, victory. You wash it down with the compote. It's pink, faintly sweet, and contains one prune that's clearly seen things. It stares up at you like a survivor. You stare back. Then you drink it, because that's what one does. Around you, co-workers chew in silence. Occasionally, someone grunts. A nod here, a shrug there. The sound of spoons clinking against chipped bowls. No one complains. Not out loud. But there's a poetry in the silence. A kind of rhythm to the way everyone leans, scoops, swallows, sighs. This is nourishment. This is ritual. This is life. You finish your meal. Slide your tray down the metal return chute. The woman behind the window says nothing, just yanks the tray and slams it into a sink you hope has soap. You exit into the hallway where someone has hung a motivational poster featuring a leaping fox and the words, "Work hard. Believe in progress." Lunch is not a right. You're not sure if that's sarcasm or genuine. You move on. Back upstairs, the office is half asleep. You sit back at your desk, stamp a form, fold it, unfold it, draw a spiral. Fred would have loved a bite of that meatball, you think. Then you remember it's Thursday, which means tonight you and the rest of the 5th floor are expected to attend Building Maintenance Committee. Oh yes, the highlight of your social calendar. The committee meets in the basement, always the basement. You descend the stairs that evening with your notepad, a pencil, and the smallest thermos of tea you could justify to yourself. 9 residents show up. 6 of them have strong opinions. The other 3 are just here for warmth, the agenda. The elevator still doesn't work. Someone's been smoking in the laundry room. The hallway light bulb on the 3rd floor has been out since 1979. A cat, not Fred, has been stealing pierogi from open windows. You sit through 90 minutes of debate that ranges from philosophical, what is a hallway really, to deeply personal. I saw Kolya with that wrench. He doesn't deserve the wrench. Someone takes minutes. Someone else eats a biscuit very, very slowly. In the end, the following is decided. No one will fix the elevator, but a sign will be added asking it nicely. A jar will be placed in the laundry room for cigarette butts. The 3rd floor light is now a matter of legend and should be left alone. The cat shall be named Zenaida and is now an official resident. You vote in favor of all measures because you are a good citizen and because you are tired. You return to your flat. Fred and Winifred are napping in a tangled heap. The radiator has resumed its usual rattle. Your window creaks. You sip what's left of your lukewarm tea, and you think today was not exciting. But it was full of food, of faces, of decisions about cats and lights and stairs and stamps. You close your eyes and smile, and tomorrow you'll get back in line. You'll eat another soup. You'll climb more stairs. And maybe, just maybe, the meatballs will bounce a little less. You sleep deeply that night, dreamless, except for a vague image of Zenaida the hallway cat wearing a small crown and being declared head of utilities. You wake to silence, which is alarming, because your apartment is never truly silent. Fred usually sneezes. Winifred usually gallops. The radiator always taps out Morse code that might mean help. And downstairs, someone always coughs at 6:47 a.m. Sharp. But today, nothing. Just stillness. You sit up in bed, momentarily convinced the world has ended and you're the last survivor. Then you notice the flickering red light on your alarm clock. Power outage. Again. Of course. You shuffle to the window. Outside, the sun is rising slowly, reluctantly, like a bureaucrat clocking in on a Monday. The courtyard glows faintly gold. Someone's already hanging laundry on the line, flapping stiff shirts like surrender flags. You blink. The silence remains. You shuffle into the kitchen. Flick the light switch instinctively. Nothing. Twist the stove dial. Still nothing. Open the fridge. Regret. Everything is slightly warm. The sour cream has already turned on you. A cucumber stares back at you in accusation. You close the fridge gently, apologetically. Without electricity, your morning routine is stripped to the bones. No kettle, no tea, no iron. Not that you were going to use it anyway. No radio to hum patriotic marches at you. Just you, a damp towel, a half-awake cat, and the quiet. You brush your teeth with water cold enough to cause dental flashbacks. You get dressed in yesterday's not-quite-dry shirt. You look in the mirror and think, this is fine, I am fine. Everything is slightly moldy, but fine. The hallway is darker than usual. Someone has lit a candle in a jar and left it on the stairs. Its flicker casts long shadows that make even your neighbor's fake fern look haunted. A handwritten note has been taped to the stair rail. No power. Don't panic. Probably back by tomorrow. Galena, second floor. You trust Galena. Galena once organized a building-wide cabbage preservation contest. She knows things. Outside the trolley bus is also without power. So is the entire line of them parked in a row, like giant metal beetles asleep on the curb. The drivers stand around smoking and swearing softly into the wind. You take this as a sign. You walk. Your boots crunch against the icy pavement. The city is oddly quiet, without the usual background hum of transformers and trolley wires. People move slower. Cars are fewer. You pass a man using a hand crank radio to listen to the news. The static says something about temporary issues and minor regional glitch. You keep walking. Your breath forms clouds. You pretend you're a dragon. Because why not? You stop at a kiosk that's somehow open. A woman sits inside, bundled in 3 coats and wrapped in plastic sheeting like a winter-themed gift basket. She sells you a hot roll from a tray, kept warm by candle stubs and relentless willpower. It's lumpy. It's delicious. It tastes like hope. At work, things are different. No lights, no phones, no elevators. People huddle in coats, drinking cold tea from mismatched mugs. Someone is using a hand mirror to reflect sunlight onto a desk just to read a memo. Someone else is using a candle to melt the wax seal off a jam jar. You sit at your desk and stare at your blank notepad. It stares back. Around 11 a.m., your supervisor calls an emergency meeting. Everyone gathers in the main hallway, 30 adults in heavy coats, listening to a woman holding a flashlight under her chin, like a ghost story. Her message, work as usual. Just do what you can. This is met with a collective shrug. You go back to your desk and start sketching new stamp designs. One features Zenaida. One just says, panic later. Lunchtime arrives. The canteen is closed. You and your colleagues share what you've brought: raisin bread that tastes like a brick, half a carrot, a boiled egg someone swears is only slightly cursed. You trade your roll for a spoonful of pickled mushrooms and consider it a win. Later, you discover someone has built a small camp stove in the stairwell, using a coffee can and string. It boils 1 cup of water every 14 minutes. You wait your turn with saint-like patience. When it's your turn, you make tea. Sweet, hot, comforting tea. You sip it on the windowsill, watching snowflakes drift lazily past the glass. And for a moment, everything feels still and all right. That evening back home, the power is still out. Fred curls in your lap. Winifred is curled in the sink. You light a stubby candle and place it in a saucer. Its glow paints shadows on the wall, makes the wallpaper look almost romantic. You heat soup over a radiator. You eat with mittens on. You write a letter to no one, just to feel the motion of your pen. You listen to the quiet, to the soft rumble of neighbors moving carefully through darkness, to the occasional spark of laughter from downstairs, to the absolute miracle of slowing down. Then, just before bed, the lights flicker back on. The refrigerator hums. The radio crackles. You don't cheer. You just smile. Because now you know what it's like to make do, to stretch small joys through long shadows, to drink tea by candlelight and call it enough. Morning brings noise again, not a gradual return, but a symphony of chaos. The neighbor's alarm clock blares from behind thin plaster walls, slightly offbeat from yours. Pipes groan with water rushing through them like they've been awoken too soon. A child wails on the third floor, demanding boiled oats immediately. Outside, someone is already hammering something metal against something harder. Power is back, and with it, the rhythms of regulated life. You drag yourself to the kitchen. The refrigerator hums, slightly smug about its resurrection. Fred glares at it. Winifred yawns dramatically. You brew tea, slice bread, and contemplate your day. Today's goal: get a haircut. A risky proposition in any society. In a Soviet apartment block ecosystem. Practically an act of war. The local hairdresser Lydia operates out of a converted storage room on the ground floor of Building 7. Technically, it's a sanctioned communal beautification station, but everyone just calls it the closet. You call to schedule an appointment. Lydia answers. You hear chewing. She says, "Come at 1. Bring biscuits." You agree, because that's the price of aesthetics. Before that work, you make it to the trolley bus early. Too early. So early that you actually get a seat. You glance around suspiciously, wondering what sinister event this fortune is balancing out. The ride is quiet. Someone's reading a spy novel. Someone else is dozing, with their forehead against the window, leaving a smudge shaped like a surrender. You arrive at the office 10 minutes early. You sit at your desk, and today you have an actual task, a form to fill, a real one. It's marked Form 7B, apartment window, repair authorization request, conditional. You stare at it like it might transform into something meaningful. Your window doesn't need repair, but the form is addressed to you, so you fill it out anyway. Section A, name yours. Section B, apartment number, correct. Section C, type of damage, Phantom creaking. Section D. Requested. Action. Reassurance. You stamp it. Twice. It feels good. At noon, you wrap up your affairs and head home. Fred is waiting on the windowsill. Winifred is sitting in the sink again. You tell them you'll be back soon. They do not care. You head to Building 7 and the closet. Inside it smells like hairspray, onion soup, and anticipation. Lydia waves you in. She wears a leopard print apron and carries herself like a general at a fashion war. She sits you in the chair, an old dentist seat, reupholstered with vinyl that sticks in summer and freezes in winter. She circles you once, then asks, "What are we doing?" You say something manageable. She says, "So we'll cut nothing and pretend it's different." You nod. She begins. Her tools are from 3 decades ago. She sharpens her scissors with a kitchen knife. She uses a spray bottle that hisses like a cat in a bad mood. You try not to breathe through your mouth. She works in silence, except for the occasional snort or sigh. Outside, you can hear a child crying over a broken sled. Inside, the only sound is the snip of dull metal and the hum of the single working light bulb. Halfway through,
Lydia pauses. Would you like the Boris Yeltsin or the tired poet? You blink. You say, "Surprise me." She nods approvingly. 15 minutes later, you have hair. Some of it is shorter, some of it is not. You don't look better or worse.
you just look freshly defeated, which is perhaps the intended effect. You pay in biscuits. She examines them like a jeweler. Says, "Not bad." Apricot. You nod. She pockets them without ceremony. Back home, Fred investigates your head for several minutes before sneezing and walking away. Winifred meows and hides under the couch. You look in the mirror. Tilt your head. Tilt it again. It's not a haircut. It's an experience. That evening you attend the Building 3 movie night, which is just someone projecting a VHS copy of War and Peace onto a sheet stapled to the stairwell. The sound is fuzzy. The subtitles are in Polish. Everyone pretends to understand anyway. Someone brings popcorn made from old corn and ambition. You sit next to a man named Anatoly, who says he once met a horse from the movie. You believe him, because why not? Halfway through the power flickers. Everyone groans. Someone offers to act out the rest. Someone else half asleep claps. You stay until the end. Back in your apartment, the radiator hisses contentedly. You curl up in your armchair with a blanket and a cold meatball. You sip tea. You scratch Fred behind the ears. You stare at the ceiling and think, today you got a haircut. Today you sat in a movie theater with 12 other people and a deaf dog. Today you filled out a form about creaking windows. Today you laughed twice. That's quite a day. And tomorrow there will be soup. There is always soup. You wake up to rain. Not a dramatic storm, just the persistent kind of drizzle that soaks your shoulders before you even realize it's raining. You stare out the kitchen window as gray droplets trace lazy lines down the glass, warping your view of the courtyard below. Fred is curled on the radiator. Winifred is pawing at the condensation on the sill, determined to fight the water. You sigh and reach for your coat because it's laundry day. Laundry in your building is an event. The communal laundry room, known as the wet dungeon, resides in the basement. You descend the stairs with your basket of damp-smelling promises, fully aware that today's battle is not against dirt, but against scheduling. The sign-up sheet is taped to the wall. There are no blank spaces. Instead, there's a note scrawled across the bottom. Everyone, please respect the schedule, or else. Olga, 3rd floor. You know better than to ignore Olga. So, you return at Olga-approved time 14:00. Meanwhile, your morning is now wide open. You decide to tackle the cupboard. The cupboard has always been there in the corner of your hallway, silently judging you. It holds an eclectic mix of memories, a broken umbrella, one ice skate, a half-knitted scarf from a lover. You don't remember clearly, a taxidermy duck. You keep forgetting to re-gift. You open it slowly. Dust explodes. You cough theatrically. Fred meows from the other room. He knows you're out of your depth. You start sorting. One pile keep, one pile maybe, one pile, why do I own this? You find an old ration card from 1974, a faded postcard of Sochi with a note that simply reads, yes. A tin labeled buttons, which contains precisely one button and a marble, a pair of gloves sewn together at the thumbs. You sit on the floor, surrounded by memory and mild confusion. And somehow, it feels like progress. At 1350, you gather your laundry. The building smells of wet socks and mild resentment. You descend again into the basement. Inside the laundry room hums with mechanical sighs. The washing machines are vintage Soviet models with names like Zhuzha 3 and Trudnitsa, which loosely translate to Busby and Worker Lady. You load your clothes, insert 2 tokens, and cross your fingers. It starts, it works. Small miracles. While it churns, you sit on the bench and read a damp magazine from 1989. The crossword is already filled in. Badly, a man named Gennady joins you. He nods. You nod. He offers you a hard candy that tastes like time. You accept. The 2 of you sit in silence, occasionally, glancing at your respective machines like nervous parents at a school play. The washer finishes. You hang your clothes on the indoor line. The air is heavy with steam, the kind that curls into your collar and makes everything smell like boiled shirts. You leave the laundry to dry, whispering a quiet prayer that no one will accidentally wear your sweater again. Looking at you. Tamara, 5th floor. Back upstairs, the mail slot squeaks. You receive a flyer, community poetry night, recite or listen, tea provided. It's handwritten, with flowers in the margins. You consider it, then pin it to your wall next to your calendar and your list of people who owe you sugar. Winifred immediately tries to eat the corner. It's a sign of approval. Later that afternoon, you visit the building bulletin board. It's your favorite form of local literature. Today's headlines: window on stairwell repaired. Temporarily. Whoever keeps leaving sardine tins in the lift, please stop. Seeking accordion player for wedding. Found mitten, left hand, brown, slightly aggressive. You chuckle. Someone next to you laughs too. You look over. It's Anton from the first floor. He wears slippers outdoors and always smells faintly of varnish. Did you see the one about the mitten, he says. I'm afraid of the mitten, you reply. You both nod. A shared moment, a small joy. That evening your clothes are mostly dry. You fold them carefully. Socks paired with reverence. Shirts smoothed with surprising pride. A towel you forgot you owned returns to circulation. You pour yourself tea and eat a slice of rye bread with cucumber and too much salt. Fred watches with envy. You give him the crust. He accepts it like a king receiving tribute. Before bed, you write in your journal, washed clothes, conquered cupboard, bonded over bulletin board, good day. Then you pause and add, still afraid of the mitten. You sleep better than you have in weeks. Maybe it's the scent of clean linen. Maybe it's the mild exertion. Maybe it's knowing your towel found redemption. Whatever the reason, you drift off smiling. The radiator purrs. The window creaks in a friendly way. And outside, rain continues to fall. Not loudly, just enough to remind you that the world is still turning. Even here, even now. You wake to a smell, not an alarming one, just different. The sort of smell that makes you sit up, sniff the air, and squint suspiciously at your cat. Fred is asleep. Winifred is too. But something is cooking, and it's not yours. You shuffle to the hallway and crack the front door. Ah, building-wide fish day. Someone, probably Galena or her cousin, who has suspicious access to mackerel, has made a heroic amount of fried fish. It's wafting up every stairwell and through every keyhole. Your neighbor's doormat now smells like the Baltic. You close the door slowly with the reverence of someone sealing off a crime scene. Fred stirs, sniffs, and promptly hides under the bed. You start your day anyway, because today is ration day. Once a month you pick up your household's rations from the community distribution point. It's not glamorous, but it's oddly satisfying. There's a list. There are stamps. There's a man in a fur hat who always forgets your name but knows your shoe size. You join the queue outside where it snakes around the building like a patient centipede. Everyone stands calmly, some holding umbrellas, some holding themselves. A woman near you is humming an old lullaby. A man behind you is peeling a hard-boiled egg with the precision of a surgeon. You all understand each other. Inside the depot, it's organized chaos. Shelves stacked with tins and pickles and boxes labeled bread, substitute, edible. A scale that measures in grams and grudges. An official with a clipboard and an aura of exhausted authority. You hand over your ration book. It's inspected with theatrical suspicion. You receive a loaf of rye bread, 2 tins of sardines, 1 brick of tea, 4 cubes of sugar, a handful of buckwheat, something labeled fruit compote base that might once have been plums, and miracle of miracles, a whole lemon. You cradle it like treasure. Back home you unpack your bounty. The sardines go in the back of the cupboard, where you pretend they don't exist. The buckwheat joins its identical cousins. You place the lemon on the table, just to look at it, just to remind yourself sometimes life gives you a lemon, and it doesn't mean anything ironic at all. Sometimes it's just a lemon, bright, juicy, real. You boil water, break off a chip of the tea brick, and make the best cup of tea you've had in weeks. You do not use the lemon. It's too perfect. You just look at it. Later, you take a walk. The sidewalks are slick with fish oil. Children chase each other with sticks. A dog barks at a pigeon that doesn't care. You pass the usual suspects Anatoly, repainting his balcony rail for the 4th time this season. Tamara, drying boots on her windowsill. 2 elderly women on a bench discussing the same topic they discussed yesterday, whether pickled beets count as a proper dinner. They wave. You wave back. You feel absurdly included. At the corner kiosk, you exchange 2 buttons and a compliment for a newspaper and a pencil. The headline reads, "Coal shortage expected. Solutions TBD." You flip to the puzzle section. Today's crossword theme is seasonal vegetables. It's fiendishly difficult. You tackle it anyway. Clue number 7, red, round controversial, in salads. 6 letters. You write tomato, then you cross it out and write radish. Then you erase everything and draw a small smiling fish instead. Back home, the smell of cooked mackerel has finally faded. You celebrate by opening a window. The breeze is cold and smells like chimney smoke and hope. You sit down to write a letter to no one again. You write, "Today I stood in a line. I received a lemon. I'm not sure anything else matters." You smile. You sketch a picture of Fred on the envelope. He disapproves. You can tell by his ears. Dinner is modest. Boiled potatoes, half a tin of sardines reluctantly, and a pinch of dill you smuggled home from a friend's balcony garden last month. You eat slowly, deliberately. It tastes like effort, like dignity, like something you earned. You save the other half of the sardines. Fred will not touch them. Wise cat. You spend the evening reading a book you've read 7 times already. The main character never makes better decisions, no matter how often you beg. But they try. And somehow, that's comforting. You light a candle not because the power is out, but because it feels right. Fred curls in your lap. Winifred stalks a shadow in the corner like it owes her money. You look at your lemon one more time. Still perfect. Still untouched. You whisper to it, "Maybe tomorrow." Then you whisper to yourself, "Maybe tomorrow." And that's enough. The next morning arrives wrapped in fog. You open the curtains and can barely see the building across the courtyard. The world has turned into a watercolor gray on gray with vague outlines of balconies, laundry lines, and someone's forgotten shovel leaning against the fence like it's contemplating retirement. You take a deep breath. The air smells like damp wool and slightly overcooked barley. You decide today is the perfect day to do absolutely nothing important. You begin by rearranging your furniture, not for practicality, just to see what it feels like. The armchair moves half a meter to the left. You sit in it. The view is now precisely 1 centimeter more tragic. You nod, satisfied. Then you move it back. Winifred watches you, unimpressed. Fred blinks slowly, the universal feline gesture, for you are a ridiculous creature. You are. The fog clings to everything outside like a clingy ex who wants to just talk. People shuffle around the courtyard like ghosts. A child's laughter echoes from somewhere far off, made eerie by distance and vapor. You wrap yourself in 2 scarves and decide to visit the attic. You haven't been up there in months, possibly years, which means it's time. The attic is accessed by a narrow staircase near the top floor, behind a door that always sticks. You push it open with your shoulder. Dust falls dramatically. Cobwebs wave hello. You climb up. The attic smells like old paper, forgotten intentions, and something that might once have been apricots. You love it. Up here, people store all the things they don't know how to throw away. A headless, rocking horse. A typewriter missing the letter E. A full box of expired wedding invitations. A gramophone with no needle, but a lot of opinions. And for some reason, a mannequin torso wearing a hat. You tip your cap to her. She does not respond. She's not that kind of mannequin. You find your own labeled trunk in the corner, covered in a sheet that disintegrates when touched. Inside, a coat with shoulder pads large enough to land a helicopter on. A journal from your teenage years. Every entry begins with "Dear possibly glorious future." A small box labeled Secrets, which contains 3 marbles, 1 dried flower, and a note that just says, "Never tell. Anton." You smile. You don't remember what the secret was, but you still won't tell Anton, just in case. After an hour of attic archaeology, you descend with treasure. 1 scarf you forgot you owned. 1 photo album containing mostly blurry pictures of elbows. 1 copy of Soviet Science Digest, 1973, featuring a centerfold of a particularly handsome tractor. Back in your apartment, you set up the album on the table. Fred knocks it off. Twice, you accept this. You drink tea. You read about the tractor. You feel smarter, or at least more agricultural. Around midday, you receive a knock at the door. It's Tamara from the 5th floor. She holds a bowl. She says, "Extra soup. Beets." Don't argue. You take it with the reverence due to anything gifted by a woman with 14 indoor plants and the reflexes of a hawk. You offer her a lemon in return. She gasps, then declines. "I wouldn't dare," she whispers. The lemon's legend grows. The soup is red, slightly sweet, and contains something mysterious, that might be celery or might be ambition. You eat it all. Winifred tries to lick the bowl. You block her with one hand while flipping through the photo album with the other. You find a picture of you decades ago, holding a giant fish and wearing a hat shaped like a goose. You stare at it. You whisper, "What happened to you?" Then you whisper, "What happened to the hat?" Then you laugh for 10 straight minutes. Later that evening, the fog still hasn't lifted. You sit on your now slightly moved armchair and watch the shapes outside shift and shimmer. Someone is playing an accordion faintly in another building. The tune is slow, a little sad, and a little hopeful, like someone trying to remember joy from memory alone. You imagine that tune following you through the rest of your day. You imagine it wrapping around the lemon like a lullaby. You light a candle, not for light, just for company. You write one sentence in your journal. Today I visited the attic and found pieces of myself. Then you cross it out. Then you write fog, soup, hat, ghosts, all friendly. That feels more accurate. Before bed, you hold the lemon again. You almost use it. Almost. Then you wrap it in a scarf and place it on your windowsill. A small beacon of citrus optimism glowing faintly in the candlelight. Fred looks at you like you've joined a cult. You have. The cult of mild contentment. And you're a full-time member. You climb into bed, pull the blanket up to your chin. Outside, the fog moves like a memory that refuses to leave. And you think you did nothing of value today, and it was glorious. You wake up to silence. Not the usual kind, the quiet that follows a storm of clanking radiators and barking dogs and distant arguments about pickles. No, this silence is different. It feels padded, like the world has been wrapped in cotton, or someone finally found the mute all button for the building. You lie still, eyes open, unsure whether this is peace or a prelude to chaos. Then you remember. The power is out. Again. Of course it is. You shuffle into the kitchen. The kettle is cold. The stove is dark. The fridge sighs gently, like it's resigned to its fate. Fred hops onto the windowsill and looks outside, tail flicking. Winifred curls into a cinnamon roll and tucks her nose beneath her paw. They both seem utterly at peace with this power-free state. You, on the other hand, are in mild withdrawal. No tea, no toast, no noise. And yet, there's something about it, something cozy, like the world is telling you to take a break from electricity and go fully analog. You shrug on a cardigan, grab a notebook and pencil, and decide to do something truly radical. You will write a letter, by hand. You settle at the kitchen table, light a candle. Again, not because it's needed, it's daytime, but because your handwriting improves by candlelight. You believe this is a fact. You will not be persuaded otherwise. You write, "Dear Irina," then pause. You don't know any Irina. You crumple the page and start again. This time, to whom it may concern, in 1978. Better. You write about the fog, the soup, the lemon. The mannequin in the attic. You include 3 jokes, one drawing of Fred, and a recipe for an oat-based dessert that requires 0 ingredients anyone actually owns. You sign it, yours, in minor inconvenience and moderate delight. Then you fold it and place it in a shoebox labeled Letters to Time. It now contains 6 letters, none with return addresses. Still no power. So, you go visiting. In Soviet apartment blocks, visiting means knocking on someone's door, unannounced, then apologizing profusely while secretly hoping they offer tea. You knock on Anatoly's. He opens wearing slippers and holding a book upside down. Power, you ask. He shakes his head. Tea, he asks. You shake your head. He lets you in anyway. His apartment is identical to yours in structure, but completely different in vibe, where your walls hold photos of cats and postcards. His are lined with shelves of manuals, plumbing, philosophy, parachuting, alphabetized. You sit. He offers you a piece of dark bread with a single pickle slice. You eat it like it's caviar. He talks about stars, not the glamorous kind, the astronomical ones. He believes they can hear us. You nod along. You don't disbelieve him. Not today. Later, the 2 of you play silent chess. It's a variant where you don't talk, and you both pretend you know what you're doing. Fred joins you, jumps on the board, and claims victory. Anatoly surrenders his queen with theatrical flair. On the way back upstairs, you bump into Tamara. She holds a thermos and a flashlight and looks like a glamorous camping enthusiast. She says, "Power out." You say yes. She says, "Want soup?" Of course you do. This time it's cabbage-based, with a piece of something that might be beef or might be myth. You thank her. You drink it on the stairwell. A few other neighbors emerge. One brings bread, one has boiled eggs, one just brings a harmonica and bad intentions. You all sit on the steps and share food and weather complaints and rumors. Someone claims the blackout was caused by a man in Vladivostok plugging in an electric samovar and throwing off the grid. Someone else says it's just routine maintenance. No one actually cares. You're warm. You're full. You're surrounded. You haven't laughed this much in weeks. As evening falls, the sky outside dims to indigo. You climb back to your apartment. Fred greets you like you've been away for years. Winifred ignores you in a dignified protest against soup you didn't share. You light more candles, boil water on a camping stove you forgot you had. Finally, tea. You add a single drop of lemon juice. The room smells alive. You sip. You exhale. You sit by the window and write in your journal, "No power, no problem." I think the dark brings out the brightness in people. You underline it twice. Then doodle a drawing of a cat playing chess. Then add note to self. Ask Anatoly if stars gossip. Before bed, you sit quietly. No humming appliances, no TV static, just the hiss of wind outside and the soft creak of old walls, remembering their shape. You pull a blanket over your knees. You think about Irina, the imaginary one. You hope she reads your letter wherever or whenever she is. You fall asleep with a smile and a candle burning low. And if the power comes back, you don't notice. You're dreaming of stars who whisper pickles that predict the weather and a cat who wins every chess game. You wake up with the unmistakable feeling that someone is watching you, not in a scary horror film kind of way, more in the sense of someone small, four-legged, and demanding breakfast. Fred. He is nose to nose with you, eyes wide, whiskers twitching, utterly committed to the mission. Winifred sits neatly at the foot of your bed like a silent accomplice. You get up. You feed them. Balance is restored to the apartment. Today is inspection day. Not official, of course. No one from the state is visiting. But Zenaida, the building chairwoman, has declared that every floor will be checked for compliance. What that means changes hourly. Sometimes it's fire safety. Sometimes it's communal cleanliness. Sometimes it's whether the stairwell smells sufficiently neutral. No one knows what she looks for, only that she finds it. You start tidying, but not your apartment. No, the stairwell. Because somehow, despite living here for 27 years, you feel deeply responsible for the third floor's reputation. You sweep dust that has probably achieved sentience. You scrape up a mysterious sticky patch that's been there since the Great Jam, spill of '91. You realign the floor mat so precisely it could win awards for symmetry. Anatoly passes by. You missed a spider web, he says. You squint. That's art. He nods, accepts your logic. At 11, Zuru sharp. Zenaida arrives. You can hear her coming before you see her sensible heels. Sharp, perfume, the click of a clipboard being flipped open like a weapon. You freeze halfway through repositioning a potted fern. She appears, tall, stern, impeccably lipsticked. She eyes the hallway, eyes you, taps her pen against the board. Fred meows. Zenaida raises one eyebrow. You're not sure if that's good or bad. She makes notes, asks questions like, has the radiator leaked recently? Why is there a lemon on your windowsill? Who painted this banister fuchsia? You answer only emotionally. Symbolic reasons. That may have been me. She sighs, moves on. You exhale. Later, in the safety of your kitchen, you reward yourself with a slice of stale cake and a sip of tea. You stare at the lemon. You whisper, you held strong under pressure. It glows gently in agreement. Outside, the sky shifts from gray to less gray. You decide to celebrate surviving inspection by visiting the communal storage cellar. Because why not continue the theme of questionable spaces filled with half memories and dubious smells? You descend with your flashlight key and an air of noble sacrifice. The door creaks like it hasn't been opened since Brezhnev. Probably hasn't. Inside, darkness cobwebs and the distinct scent of cabbage in peril. You navigate past a stack of broken chairs that clearly once had a party, a row of boots too tired to stand upright, a box labeled "Do not open seriously," which you naturally open. Inside that box, a puzzle with 999 pieces, a single high heel, and a postcard of Lenin with googly eyes. You close it gently, respectfully. In the far corner, you find a folded banner. It reads, "Victory Day, 1985. We remember." You unroll it, shake off the dust, and smile. You do remember. Barely. There had been fireworks, accordion music. Someone danced with a live chicken. You briefly consider rehanging the banner in the stairwell. Then remember Zenaida's face. You put it back. Let sleeping chickens lie. On your way out, you pass Leonid from the basement flat. He's shirtless, humming a war song, holding a pot of something steaming. Inspection day. Eh? He grins. You nod. He says, "She asked if my curtains were flammable. I told her only when I'm mad." Then he disappears into his apartment. Steam and all. You don't ask. Back home, you peel off your coat, and gloves drop into your chair and sigh. The radiator hisses in approval. You glance at the lemon, still radiant. You almost use it. Almost. Instead, you write in your journal, "Survived Zenaida, revisited victory, resisted lemon," then add, "Basement remains mysterious, possible cabbage cult forming." As you prepare for bed, the hallway lights flicker. Winifred leaps into a box. Fred meows at the ceiling as if he's preparing a legal complaint. You pat his head. You whisper, "Tomorrow we reclaim the linen closet." He purrs. You fall asleep quickly. Dream of googly-eyed postcards, flammable curtains, and lemons with secret powers. The stairwell is clean. Zenaida is appeased. All is calm in the empire of mild absurdity. You wake to the sound of clinking glasses, not the dangerous kind, no drunken ruckus or broken heirlooms, just the gentle, cheerful rhythm of preparations. Through your thin kitchen wall, you can hear Tamara humming. She's setting up for her birthday party. You forgot. You also remember that forgetting is entirely acceptable. As long as you show up, wear slippers, and contribute something, anything that can be categorized as edible or entertaining. You check the fridge. 1 boiled potato, half a jar of pickled carrots, and of course the lemon. You narrow your eyes at it. It glows with smug potential, but not today. Today it's garnish. You mash the potato, chop the carrots, and add the smallest, fanciest sprig of dill you can find. Then you place 1 perfect lemon wedge on the side of the bowl. The result is underwhelming, but it's your offering. You wrap it in cloth like a sacred relic and head upstairs. Tamara's flat is already half full, the good kind of full. Voices bounce softly off wallpaper, printed with faded tulips. Steam curls from a pot of soup. A samovar hisses gently in the corner like an elderly cat. She greets you with 3 kisses and a ladle. You're directed to the food table, an organized chaos of sliced beets, salads, full of surprises, something jellied, something possibly on fire. You add your bowl discreetly. It vanishes within 5 minutes. Someone even compliments the lemon. You beam like you invented citrus. Soon the toasts begin. The first one is always to health, the second to friendship, the third to good weather, despite evidence to the contrary. By the fourth, people start getting creative. To the elevator may it rise again, to socks without holes, to people who return borrowed books even if late. You raise your glass for each one. It's mostly cranberry juice, but the emotion, pure vodka. A man named Yuri plays the accordion, badly, but with so much enthusiasm, no one minds. You find yourself swaying, not dancing, not exactly, more like participating in rhythmic cooperation. Tamara claps. Someone shouts, "Play the potato song." Yuri plays something vaguely tuber-related. You do not question it. Later, someone brings out the photo albums. Tamara's childhood, her wedding, her sister in 1979 holding a goat and looking suspiciously powerful. You flip pages, laugh softly, and ask the important questions. Was this haircut intentional? Is this a dog or a small bear? Why is this man kissing a radio? Tamara shrugs. It was a very emotional New Year's. Of course it was. A round dessert, homemade cake with more spirit than structure. People start telling stories, not big ones, little chewy ones, about falling asleep in the wrong apartment, about hiding a sausage during a customs inspection, about the time Zinaida sang karaoke and no one recovered emotionally. You offer your own tale, the lemon's ongoing career, as a celebrity garnish. Tamara declares it a metaphor for the soul. You think that's giving it too much credit, but you don't argue. As the party softens into background murmurs and leaning heads, you notice Fred curled under Tamara's table. He has found a patch of sun and refuses to move. Winifred is in someone's purse. Of course she is. You sip the last of your tea. You feel full, not just from food, but from something quieter, a kind of peace that sneaks up on you, the kind that lives in cluttered flats and misremembered songs and people who remember your name without needing to. You head home well past midnight. You take the stairs, though the elevator is mysteriously working tonight. Out of respect and caution, you carry a small plate of leftover salad, a slice of bread, and a folded napkin with someone's name on it. Unclear whose. Probably not yours, but it feels important. Back in your kitchen, you unwrap the food, place it in the fridge, and glance at the lemon. Still proud, still untouched. You whisper, "You were a hit." It glows in modest triumph. You write in your journal, "Tamara turned 58. I danced with dignity. The accordion survived. So did I." You draw a tiny goat next to the note, then pause, add, "Named him Radio." As you tuck yourself into bed, you hear someone down the hall singing softly. It's probably Yuri, or maybe the lemon. You smile at the thought. You fall asleep quickly, dreaming of awkward toasts, accordion duels, and a goat named Radio who always finds his way home. You wake to a knock, not a polite one. A knock with authority, like someone trying to evict your door. You stumble to answer it wearing one sock, half a blanket, and yesterday's sleep still clinging to your face. Standing in the hallway, two very official-looking individuals in dark coats, holding clipboards and radiating Moscow energy. One says inspection, the other says nothing, just writes something down already. You blink. Didn't we just? They interrupt. Different inspection. Of course it is. This is the Moscow visit, when representatives from some ministry that sounds vague come to check that everything in your building complies with a set of regulations so contradictory that even the inspectors look unsure. You invite them in because you have no choice, and also because you've finally cleaned behind the radiator. They step inside, immediately frown at the height of your curtain rod, the position of your bookshelf, the existence of Fred, who is napping in a baking dish. They ask, "Do you own any unauthorized Western items?" You reply, "Only regret and a Finnish umbrella." They stare at the umbrella. They write something down. You wonder if umbrellas are subversive now. They inspect the kitchen next. One flips open a cabinet with the efficiency of a man trained to detect forbidden toasters. The other lifts the lemon sniffs. It puts it down like it might explode. You offer tea. They decline. You offer cookies. They take 5. You count that as a win. Next stop, your bookshelf. They scan titles. They raise eyebrows at your copy of The Joy of Plumbing. They nod solemnly at your Soviet calendars from 1983 to 1997. Then they spot a music cassette peeking from behind a cookbook. One asks, "Is this ABBA?" You freeze. Fred meows. Winifred knocks over a ladle. You answer, "No, it's a Swedish instructional tape about efficient farming." He plays it. Dancing Queen begins. You die inside. To your surprise, he says nothing, just sways slightly, then snaps the tape shut and places it back exactly where it was. His colleague writes, "Possible Swedish agricultural interest. Observe." You offer more cookies. They take 7. You're now running a state-approved bakery. Before they leave, they inspect your bathroom tiles. Apparently, grout is the backbone of socialist virtue. They nod. They thank you. They leave. But not before one of them turns and mutters, "Nice cat." Shame about the umbrella. You close the door. You sit down. You exhale. An hour later, Zenaida knocks. Of course. She's carrying a clipboard of her own, smelling of sour cherries and fury. "You had inspectors?" she asks. You nod. She squints. "Did they like the lemon?" You hesitate. I think they feared it. She nods in approval, then leans in close and whispers, "They're probably here because of the new TV in 5B, imported. Big." You gasp. Imported TV. That's practically space travel. Zenaida disappears without saying goodbye. You suspect she's going to confront 5B with a ladle. You make yourself tea using your very loyal Soviet kettle and sit by the window. Outside, children are drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. One has sketched a rocket labeled Comrade Kitty. You hope it's about Fred. You also hope it launches. The afternoon drifts by. You rearrange your books in a pattern only you understand alphabetically by emotional impact. Plumbing now sits next to the collected sighs of Soviet poets. Fred naps on your calendar collection. Winifred is chewing on the Swedish tape. You let her. History deserves bite marks. In your journal, you write, "The inspectors came. The lemon survived. So did my dignity, barely." You draw a tiny ABBA logo in the corner, then cross it out and write agricultural training tape definitely. That night, you eat the last cookie. You raise your teacup in a silent toast to unauthorized umbrellas, forbidden music, and the quiet thrill of surviving a clipboard encounter. Fred lifts his paw in solidarity. Winifred climbs into the now empty cookie tin and declares victory. You fall asleep to the sound of your neighbor's TV, possibly the illegal one. It plays something fuzzy and bright and strange. You don't understand a word, but it sounds free. The radiator wakes you up, not with a pleasant hum, like a polite apology for existing in a concrete box during eternal winter. No, this is a metallic clank followed by a hiss, so aggressive it sounds like someone just opened the gates of a particularly grumpy underworld. You roll over and immediately regret it. Your pillow is cold. Your toes are colder. The tip of your nose is currently experiencing a minor ice age. You are wrapped in 3 layers, pajama sweater, and that one blanket that smells faintly of your neighbor's dill garden. And still, it's not enough. The radiator groans again, then nothing. Silence. A silence that can only mean it gave up entirely. You sit up and breathe out. Your breath forms a cloud. You're now officially living in a weather system, indoors. Fred is curled on top of the kettle, his new kingdom. Winifred has made a nest out of your best sweater and is pretending not to shiver. You shuffle to the window. Frost feathers stretch across the glass like nature's filigree. It's beautiful. You hate it. Time for layers. All of them. You put on socks over socks. Sweater over sweater. Hat indoors. Yes. Scarf indoors. Absolutely. You glance at the thermostat for moral support. It doesn't respond. It might be decorative. You consider lighting a candle, but not for light. Just to stare at something warmer than your soul right now. You mutter, "At least I don't live in Siberia." Then pause and mutter, "Yet." You make tea, or try. The kettle wheezes. The stove clicks once, then gives up. You switch to your emergency camping burner, the one that's been waiting for its moment, like a retired war hero. It sputters to life. Glorious. You boil water, add loose tea, cradle the cup like it owes you rent. Outside, snow begins to fall, not gently. It plummets as if hurled by an angry sky goblin. You watch the flakes swirl, then collect on your windowsill like smug little invaders. You whisper, "I see you." They ignore you. You decide to brave the hallway. Maybe someone knows what's happening. Maybe heat is returning. Maybe someone's baked something warm and life-affirming. You step out into the stairwell. It's colder than your apartment. A penguin could file a complaint. You knock on Tamara's door. She opens it already wearing 3 scarves and holding a spoon. She doesn't say hello. She just says, "Soup." You nod. You enter. Her apartment is only 5% warmer, but it smells of miracle. Cabbage, carrot, maybe potato, maybe hope. You sit, you eat, you both grunt approval between spoonfuls. Tamara whispers, "Radiators down, building wide." You sigh. "Of course," she sighs. "They said it'll be fixed by Thursday." You freeze. It's Monday. She nods solemnly. Brace for the frozen times. You stay for 2 bowls of soup and 1 round of guess what's in this pickle. The answer was caraway seeds and confusion. You leave warmer, not in body, but in spirit. Back home, you begin your preparations. You move furniture away from windows. You tape up the drafty bits with newspaper and patriotic flyers from 1982. You hang a thick curtain over the door, using leftover yarn and pure frustration. Fred helps by biting the yarn. Winifred supervises from a suitcase. You locate your emergency heat pack, a red brick wrapped in foil, which you've nicknamed Comrade Warmth. You heat it on the burner, carefully, then slide it under your blanket like a secret. You sigh with the relief of 1,000 babushkas. That evening the power flickers, but it stays on. You feel victorious until you realize the TV isn't working. Just static, then a face, then static again. You whisper, "Okay," not creepy at all, and turn it off. You opt for radio, instead static-filled ballads and stern poetry read in monotone. Surprisingly comforting, you crawl into bed, wearing 2 hats. You write in your journal, "Cold 9:10, radiator betrayer, tea, saving grace, Tamara soup sorceress." Then add, "Fred applied to join the Arctic Corps. Winifred declined." You tuck the journal under your pillow. The cats snuggle closer than usual. The wind outside sings lullabies written by glaciers. You fall asleep dreaming of tropical beaches, heat that doesn't hiss, and radiators that love you back. You wake up, and miraculously the radiator is humming, not violently, not smugly, just humming, like it's trying to apologize for yesterday. You reach out a cautious hand. Warm, not hot, not tropical, but enough to make your fingers tingle with something close to forgiveness. Fred stretches luxuriously. Winifred rolls over and falls off the chair. A good omen. You celebrate with toast, real toast, not just warm bread, but properly browned, crunchable, crumb-shedding toast. You whisper to it, "This is going to be a good day." And then you realize it's laundry day. Laundry day in your building is an event, not a solo endeavor. There's a schedule handwritten and posted on the inside of the laundry room door. It is policed with more enthusiasm than national borders. You check the schedule. Today is yours. 9:00 a.m. to 12:00 p.m., the golden hours. You gather your laundry with precision: 3 sweaters, 2 pairs of trousers, socks in unmatched but emotionally committed pairs, a towel that once dreamed of retirement. You also bring your own soap, because the communal soap smells like nostalgia and forgotten promises. You descend the stairs. The laundry room is already warm. Steam curls from the ceiling pipes. The old machine rumbles like a friendly bear with a backache. You load it, add soap, and whisper, "Please don't eat anything important." It growls. Fair enough. While you wait, you clean the laundry room kettle. You don't have to, but you do, because it earns you brownie points with Babushka Luda, who unofficially runs the room. She appears 12 minutes into your cycle, carrying a basket, a newspaper, and judgment. She eyes the machine, nods. You clean the filter. You say always. She grunts approval. You are now family. She tells you about her niece in Minsk, about the time the washing machine in 4C ate someone's apron, about the secret to folding fitted sheets there isn't one. You sip tea together in plastic cups older than your high school diploma. Time slows in that warm, humid space. Even the pipes seem to listen. When your laundry finishes, you hang it carefully on the communal line, next to a pair of sequined trousers, Anatoly's probably, and something vaguely lacy that may belong to Zenaida. You do not ask. You simply clip your clothes with reverence and watch the steam rise from the sleeves like they're exhaling. Back upstairs, the apartment feels luxurious. The radiator is still working. The kettle boils with enthusiasm. Fred has claimed a spot on your freshly folded towel. You don't argue. You spend the afternoon rearranging your sock drawer, not because it needs it, but because it's soothing. You find one birthday card from someone named Svetlana, 2 buttons that don't match anything you own, 1 mystery key. You put the key in a teacup and label it eventually. Later, you write a letter to no one. Again. But you sign it. Yours, in detergent and devotion. Then you fold it like laundry and tuck it between the pages of your cookbook. Page 47. Pickled beets. Symbolic. Dinner is simple. Leftover soup, a slice of bread, and 1 glorious, deliberate slice of lemon floating in your tea. Yes, you used it, not the whole thing, just 1 slice. Enough to feel fancy, enough to taste the memory of sunlight. Fred looks impressed. Winifred ignores it. She prefers sardine juice. You let her win this round. You write in your journal, laundry conquered, radiator reformed, lemon sliced. Life as usual continues on gentle terms. You draw a sock, holding hands with a lemon, then pause. Add a caption, unlikely but supportive friends. Before bed, you stare out the window. Snow is falling again, but now it feels like a quiet agreement, not an attack. The building across the street has 1 window glowing yellow. You imagine someone else in there writing their own story. Maybe about toast, Maybe about you. You fall asleep with the comforting knowledge that somewhere someone else's socks are drying too. The smell of paint wakes you, not strong enough to knock you out, but enough to confuse your dreams with vague memories of art class and state-sponsored murals. You shuffle to the door and peek into the hallway. Someone is painting the stairwell, bright yellow. You blink. It's optimistic, suspiciously optimistic. Anatoly is down there with a roller in one hand, a cigarette in the other, unlit for now, and a radio playing a loop of 1970s funk that is clearly not on the approved playlist. Why yellow, you ask? He grins. Zinaida said neutral. I said lemon is neutral. You nearly drop your tea. Lemon, he nods. Symbol of endurance. You glance at your kitchen window where the lemon has now shriveled into a philosophical metaphor. You whisper, you've inspired a movement. Fred meows in agreement. The building somehow feels livelier today. Maybe it's the paint fumes. Maybe it's the energy of people rearranging furniture to avoid splatter. Or maybe it's the fact that the elevator has been fixed, sort of. It still lurches at the third floor, but at least now it thinks about moving again. You decide to ride it just once, for the thrill. You press the button. It groans awake like a disgruntled uncle. The door slides open halfway. You squeeze in sideways, whispering, "Be cool." It closes behind you with the finality of a Soviet archive vault. Inside, you stare at the peeling instruction sticker, "In case of emergency." Do not. Wise words. You reach the ground floor. You step out, victorious. Outside, it's snowing gently. You walk past Zenaida, who is adjusting her hat with the precision of a military commander. She nods at you. You've seen the paint, I have you say. It's lemon. She raises one eyebrow. Symbol of vigilance. You're not sure if that's a compliment. She disappears into the post office. The bakery is open. You buy a small loaf. Warm, dense, possibly weaponized. You tuck it into your coat like a baby pigeon. The shopkeeper says, "Weather's mild today." You check your breath, still visible. Mild is relative. You agree anyway. Back home you host a mini tea party. It's just you, Fred Winifred, and the lemon now, slightly shriveled, but revered. You set out one slice of bread, one spoon of jam, 2 tiny teacups, a candle for no reason other than drama. You toast to small victories, like yellow paint, like working radiators, like elevators that only mildly threaten your life. You write your final entry of the week. The stairwell is bright. Anatoly is bold. I rode the elevator and survived. Lemon has achieved legacy. You pause. May we all age into metaphor. As evening falls, the hallway glows soft gold under the new paint. Children run past trailing mittens and giggles. Tamara waves from her window, holding what looks like a bouquet of parsley. Zinaida walks by, scribbling furiously in her clipboard and humming a song that might be about discipline or love. It's hard to tell. You sit by your window, cup of tea in hand, Fred on your lap, Winifred snoring in a bowl she chose for reasons unknown. The snow continues its quiet descent. The world is absurd and warm and yours. And now, as the lights dim in your little apartment block at the edge of somewhere and nowhere, you let yourself melt gently into stillness. The radiator hums its soft lullaby like an old friend who's finally decided to show up and stay. The lemon, now wrinkled and wise, rests on the windowsill, its days of glory behind it, its symbolism stronger than ever. Fred purrs. Winifred shifts in her bull tail, twitching in a dream. The stairwell glows faintly through the door frame, that proud shade of lemon yellow anchoring the building together more than any policy ever did. Outside, the snow no longer falls. It settles, blanketing the rooftops, softening the edges. You think of all the tiny things that made this week quietly beautiful. A working kettle, a bowl of pickled carrots, a slightly illegal cassette tape. You survived cold mornings and surprise inspections. You made tea in a war-zone kitchen. You folded laundry beside stories. You existed gently, stubbornly, like moss on a stone. And isn't that enough? You let your eyes close. The room breathes around you, warm, still, familiar. Somewhere down the hall, a kettle whistles, a door creaks. A lullaby drifts up from an old radio playing just the right amount of off-key. You smile, and sleep takes you slowly like the turning of a page.